one of the things that we see that sinks a company more than anything else is they take a job because they need a job and it's not the right job. They're not really set up to do it. It's work they've never done before. They're kind of getting over their skis. And you really get that one chance and you may not get that chance again.
AltaVista, the highest view in contractor marketing.
If you're not listening to The Angle, you will surely fall behind.
Are you going to exist in your space, or are you going to dominate?
Trust the process.
Are you planning for today or adapting for the future?
This is the AltaVista Angle. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the AltaVista Angle. Today we are super excited to have a special guest. We have Mike Henderson, President and CEO of Associated Builders and Contractors of Greater Baltimore. Mike has been involved in the construction industry for 29 years, and we're looking forward to him bringing some tremendous insight today. We also have Brian Dunkel, and as always, Ray McLaughlin. And, as we normally do, we're going to start with a quick economic update from Ray, and then we're just going to roll right into a great interview with Mike. So, Ray, why don't you kick us off?
Before I give the economic update, I want to at least update. Does everyone know who I played golf with last week?
I do.
Mike, you're a golfer?
Only when I have to.
Okay, so if you could pick one legendary tour player, older guy, that you could play around a golf with, who would it be?
Older than me?
Maybe your age.
My age.
Like a fun guy, someone you think you'd have a good time with.
Fun guy. I like Scotty Scheffler, and he's a lot younger than I am. But
all right, I got John Daly, so I got to play with John
Daly.
Oh,
all right. Oh, you mean like fun, like dangerous fun?
I'd like to give you some of his favorite quotes, but most of them I can't say on air. But he was a fun guy. So when we asked him how old he was, he said he's 18 with 41 years experience. That was one of my good ones. Then he said, I think one of my favorites was, if I would have known I'd still be alive at this age, I'd have treated my body a lot worse. So obviously we had a good time.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was great. So this is Florida living, guys. Just good things happen when you're down in Florida. So just a quick economic update on the AltaVista side. We've seen a nice recovery. Again, we've talked about this recovery in commercial. We believe, obviously, it's some seasonal stuff, right? We're coming out of a tough winter. We've seen some good seasonality. We try to cover the markets, too, as far as where we're going. And we believe interest rates coming lower would certainly help stimulate the economy. Our last episode, I didn't think it would happen. I'm still a little bit out to lunch, but I just listened to Warsh, our next Fed chair, more than likely testify for the last 2 hours. He's probably going to cut rates. So again, guys, when they're cutting rates, it's you just don't fight the Fed. Good things tend to happen, but from the longevity standpoint, who knows whether it works or not. Interestingly enough, we talked with Mike about the haves and the have-nots on his side of the equation. So we'll get into that a little bit later. So I think we definitely are seeing some good seasonality recovery here.
Yeah. And so, hey, Mike, We're going to kick it over to you to kind of get a little feedback about what we talked about kind of before we started recording. But maybe you can just introduce yourself, give us a little bit more about your background, and tell us about ABC Baltimore a little bit. And then we'd love for you to kind of give the take or perspective on the state of the contractor economy and the construction industry in general.
All right. So Associated Builders and Contractors is a trades association. We're the largest of our kind in this region. 600 members, general contractors, specialty contractors. Our organization primarily is a training and networking group. So in the course of a year, we will train over 3,000 people and everything from pre-apprenticeship to management to safety. We host events. We will have 5,000 or 6,000 people will come to one of our events in a given year.
That's awesome.
We're also fairly active as far as just public policy and, trying to really help educate elected officials of how construction works, what makes construction thrive, what makes small business thrive. And that's, well, at least in this state, that is an ongoing epic struggle. But we do make some headway.
That's awesome. So, kind of relaying off what Ray said about we're seeing a seasonal bounce back, talk about, and I know your clients are less on the service side and more on the new construction development, that side of things. But tell us a little bit about what you were saying earlier about the haves, the have-nots, and kind of the state of the construction industry that you're seeing.
It really has kind of been winners and losers. There's always some of that going on, but just seems more pronounced the last few years. But it was always contractors that diversify, contractors that, especially on the trade side, that have really developed a good service side to their business, are weathering things well.
Yeah, one thing you said there about the people who have been the most resilient or successful was a service department or a service arm, right? Anything else you see among the contractors that are having the most success, commonalities, similarities across their businesses?
I mean, it goes back to diversity. What has consistently been, Ray, this, developing, you make your money on your people. And the the workforce continues to get older in construction. And even though there's a lot of noise being made about alternatives to college, and it's slowly, the public perception is changing. We're still not getting anywhere near the volume and interest of young people who want a career in the skilled trades.
On that note, because that's something I didn't even think about coming into this, because I'm a believer that AI is going to shed a tremendous amount of jobs, and that you're not going to have a robot under your joists and your floor in a dirt setting trying to fix a plumbing pipe. I just don't believe that's going to happen. If it does, it's 30 years away. So you're not seeing a big push into the trades yet, and do you see that changing?
It's changing. I mean, I'm hearing about it. All these kids that believe that go to college and get a degree in computer science and you're set. And all of a sudden, there isn't this hue and cry for computer programmers anymore. And you've got these graduates with tens of thousands of dollars of debt.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, I got a question for you. Within, just based on this AI and everything you're seeing, I mean, how often is that coming up with your members? Like that, are they, scared of AI? Are they embracing it?
People run the gamut from they are experimenting with it, they're dipping their toe into it, to a lot of companies that have rewired how they do things, how they think about things. And it's not just the larger companies. I was talking to smaller companies last week who have already successfully integrated AI into into their pre-construction, their estimating, scheduling. It's a game changer, because again, forever in construction, there's always been this mad dash or competition for, finding good tradespeople, good estimators. I mean, if I could grow estimators in a petri dish in a closet, the world would be the path to our door.
Right, but the estimator, I think that's also a job that probably gets more efficient through AI and could be at risk. And I do agree that there's a lot of let's just look at coders. Coders are challenged right now, although Anthropic has an open posting for coders right now. So does Amazon. So there are jobs, but it's different. But I do think estimators could change. That job could be disintermediated, for lack of better words.
I mean, there needs to be a beating heart behind whatever is happening and estimating. But we're still at the embryonic stages of AI. It's going to just keep getting better and keep getting better. And at some point, someone's going to realize I can get a robot for $15,000 and it can do wiring 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's not going to complain. I don't know how far away that's, obviously, like you said, that's decades away.
On the new construction side, I actually could see robotics, but in the service side, it'd be certainly much more challenging. But I think the tradespeople are pretty safe.
On the new construction side, Ray, on the electrical side, I was talking to one of our customers, and they've got a machine now that they do the punch outs for the lighting receptacles. And they go, this thing can punch holes, move, and go like straight down hallways. And then he goes, so imagine instead of an electrician having to get on a ladder and punch out every hole, you know what I mean? They go, we have a machine that just knows how to do it it's just calibrated, and we just move it floor to floor, area to area, and it just punches out holes, and it can work 24 hours a day, and its arm never starts to hurt. So that was pretty interesting.
It was just a matter of time. I hear about stories like that as well, but as the lack of skilled labor has so hampered this industry for so long, that it was just a matter of time before some really smart people were going to figure out a way to innovate around that. So we're only going to see more and more of that. But, the opportunity still is there. And it's right. It's not and that's what I'd like to tell educators and elected officials who believe, they've gone from everybody should go to college and everybody should be an electrician or plumber. It's not for everybody. I mean, this is tough. This is complex, technical stuff you have to master. Maybe not so much for carpentry, but certainly for electrical and plumbing and the low voltage stuff. I mean, you need to, it's not everybody is wired to be able to do that kind of work.
Sure. Was that a pun or was that?
No, I was even going to say no pun intended, but
okay.
I assume your audience is will pick up on that.
I've got a question. So we get this occasionally. Again, we have our client base is anywhere from a $5 million contractor to, believe it or not, $1 billion contractor, anything in between. But occasionally we'll get this call like, oh, I want to get in data center construction. And I met with a private equity guy who bought an electrical contractor, and he's asking my opinion. He's like, why can't we get in data center construction? I'm like, because those relationships are ironclad, right? If you're Whiting Turner or Clark and you're building data centers and you're getting the work done with 5-6 different electrical contractors, getting into that bid forum is not going to be easy. You're not just going to send out a mailer and, get into the bid, right? I mean, that's just a fantasy land.
Well, I mean, construction, I guess like most businesses, it, comes down to relationships. And that's certainly true where we are, Maryland and Baltimore. It's a relationship town. And in order to get a data center, I'm no expert, but you've got to start planting those seeds and building those relationships way, way down the line, because the dollars involved, the risk that's at stake, they're not going to, the general contractor can't afford to take a whole lot of chances. He wants people he's worked with before, people that deliver, people that know how to call an audible when things aren't going as they should. I mean, this industry has been so plagued by production issues and supply issues, and the chaos caused by tariffs over the last year has just exacerbated that. I mean, I think
my point is such that if you're a customer and you're listing, getting into a data center is not sending an email campaign to some data center engineer, right? The data center's already built, quite frankly. And the way they build these things, there are maintenance needs, but the roof is going to last 45, 50 years. The HVAC systems might be replaced in 15, 20 years, but to get into new construction data centers is not easy to do. So, I know when our clients ask for that, we try to sort of talk them off the ledge. I compare it to when I was in electrical business. We were trying to get into hospitals. It was so hard to get into hospitals by nature of how complex that work is. You had to prove, right, that you were capable of doing hospitals. So switching gears and going into data centers is probably not your best business strategy. It takes some time, a lot of time.
So whether you're hiring somebody to be a project manager or you're hiring a contractor, you're hiring a CPA, everybody wants to hire somebody who's done that work before. And the less ramp up time and startup time, the faster that person can start paying for themselves.
And hey, Mike, I have a question for you, kind of talking about this, because we're talking about how we kind of acquire new customers, right? From a sales focus here is that's kind of what I'm taking out of it, right? I have a customer in Indianapolis in the skilled trades, fairly large, well-known company, 2 offices, and the one office has been tasked to get more new construction projects, right? And so as we were helping talk about some marketing strategies and this and that, and they were focusing on relationships, I said, well, do you do ABC? And, right. Talk about how like joining an ABC, whether it's any chapter, any market, right? How can that help someone in their marketing strategy, right? And how can they expect that to what role can it play in their marketing?
So on the trade side, it's kind of obvious. You want to fish where the fish are, and we represent the largest general contractors in the region, and everything from big to small, everything in between. And we tell this to the smaller, newer companies all the time. You got to get away from just being a number. They'll complain. I send in bids and I don't get a call back. I don't get a number. I don't know if we're too high. And we're like, gotta be a face. You gotta, and ABC gives you the opportunity to, we tell people, don't come to an event and start sticking your business card in people's faces. Make relationships, be a credible person. I mean, the average person, if you tell them, hey, would you be excited to go into a cocktail party with 150 or 200 people and you don't know anybody? No, the average person, Ray would be an exception to that, but the average person would go, yuck, I don't want any part of that. So that's why it's really important when you join an organization, latch on to the staff. Because I know our staff make it a point to introduce you, to walk you around, look for opportunities to get plugged in.
I mean, let me interject. I look at it as like planting seeds, right? A lot of times when people want to shift and they say, hey, I'm going to join ABC because I'm looking for more construction work, they need the work. It's too late. These are relationship establishments, planting seeds, finding the right connections. That's what ABC, I think, is really good for. Is that the way you see it?
Well, yeah, and we've learned a lot over the years. We've seen really smart people fail, and we've seen really people of average intelligence succeed because they focus on the right things. One of the things that we see that sinks a company more than anything else is they take a job because they need a job and it's not the right job. They're not really set up to do it. They don't have, it's work they've never done before. They're kind of getting, what's the expression, getting over their skis. And you really get that one chance. And if you are not able to stay on schedule. You're not able to efficiently man it. You get the numbers wrong. You may not get that chance again. So you're better off with maybe a larger client to take on something that where you might not even make money, you might break even, the profit margin might not be there, be a sub to a sub, look for opportunities to build credibility. Again, going back to being part of ABC, look for opportunities to get involved, be involved in, we have peer groups for people in safety, peer groups for people in HR and technology. Look for opportunities to really be seen as a credible person.
In ABC, not only from the networking standpoint, obviously the trade school aspect, right? So you get the advantage of that you can put your people in the trade, the trainings. You can you could technically hire, right? Don't you guys sometimes have the ability to?
We do. That's in our history. That's fairly new. We started a program called Project Jumpstart 20 years ago, and that was focused on underserved communities in Baltimore City. Hopkins was building a biotech community in their backyard, and billions of dollars was going to be invested in this community. And they wanted to make sure local residents had the opportunity to benefit economically. So we were selected to do a job training, job placement, and it got off to a rocky start, but it's now kind of like the gold seal for workforce development programs. So yeah, that is one of the benefits of being part of ABC. We will get you people. You certainly send us your people. We'll put them through apprenticeship. We'll give them blueprint training and tech training and all that. But we also are doing training for people who are just out of high school and they don't have a job yet. And what we do more than anything else is get them ready to work. We train them electrical and plumbing, but until they get on a job site and they're doing that stuff every day, they're still going to be green, but attitude is so much more critical than aptitude. You can teach.
How do we fix that in your opinion? Because I know a lot of our listeners, we hear obviously from our clients, we can't find the folks. How do we bridge that gap? There's so many, let's use Baltimore City. There's so many kids that are being unproductive in the city. I've been involved with an organization that tries to get them out of the city, but we get them in college, right? So maybe that's not the right move. How do you get the kids that don't have the testing or the aptitude? How do we bridge this gap? Like, how do we figure out ways to get these kids off the streets into trade schools? I mean, is there any movement there?
So we've had success in this, but for every success story, there are 2 or 3 that don't succeed. It's important when you have these conversations with, a high school kid or a middle school kid, help them understand construction's not for everybody. For people that think in a 3D way, people who think mechanically, there's no better job out there. And a lot of people have that. So you want to set the vision and let them know within a few years of getting your journeyman license, you're making 6 figures and you don't have any debt, as opposed to your buddy who went to college and majored in liberal arts or computer science. The opportunity, and it's the only industry that I know. You don't see a lot of bus boys who end up owning their own restaurant. But we have hundreds of companies who they started out maybe as a laborer, and they showed that they were reliable, and they became apprentices, and they finished and got their journeyman license, and hey, I'd like to try to do some estimating and some project management. And then one day they go like, you know what? I can do this. And they do it. And they set on their own. And now they have 200 employees. We
Yeah.
also have business owners who majored in engineering and then they got an MBA and they've got large mechanical firms or general contracting firms. But in construction, many, many more times it's a case where you've got someone who worked their way up and showed initiative, and now they've got their own company.
Are you seeing what's the impact of the deportations on the labor pool? Has that been material in construction?
I mean, no, it's devastating.
Okay.
It's absolutely devastating. Our economy does not work with a good, steady influx of immigrant labor. They've got to figure out a reasonable. I understand, a few years ago, gates were wide open. Kind of got the sense that people were coming in willy-nilly. But so that wasn't the answer, but neither is this.
No, I agree completely.
What's happening right now. And our economy does not work. And there's just too many jobs that Americans don't want to be part of, or natural people born here and people who have kind of become inculcated to what it means to be an American.
I think on that note, I mean, just because, again, not that anyone's listening to me or you at this point, but if we could figure out a way to keep the productive members of society that are actually working and doing good for our country, and then in addition, figuring out ways to bridge the gap between the trade labor and, whether it be the inner city kid who's lost, or it happens to be, a C student in the county, or somebody who wanted to be a coder and sees tremendous opportunity. If they could bridge these gaps, I think it's great for the industry because the job security is there. But unfortunately, we're just not making progress there.
One of the great misunderstandings in our world is no one understands what apprenticeship is. They think it's some sort of job creation thing. It's not. If you're an apprentice, it means you are working in your trade and you're working with an employer who is scrutinized by the state of Maryland on how they do things and how they pay and how the training goes. So it's not so much a job creation thing. And it's fairly tightly constrained. There's ways, the way the government regulates apprenticeship, it actually discourages people from coming in. So there needs to be these conversations, and again, educators, elected officials need to listen to employers.
Let me ask you this question, and I'm not here to bash any particular state. Is a state that is, let's just use Maryland. I'm from Maryland and I've operated in Maryland, and Maryland's not an easy state to work in. Do you see that with states that are being a little bit more flexible, that the economies and the construction companies are doing better? Like if we looked at a Texas or a Tennessee or a Florida versus, say, a Maryland, do you see a material difference?
I'm guessing this is a rhetorical question. The best example of that would be, I heard this developer went down to Charlotte and he had this project he wanted to do, and he was talking to somebody with the city official, and the city official's like, what can we do to help you? He had that same conversation with the Baltimore city official, and essentially it was, well, what are you going to do to help me?
Yeah.
And as long as that type of, what a disincentive to invest in a region. And Maryland's not alone. Maryland's not alone in that.
No, they're not alone.
You have Carolina and Tennessee and Texas and Florida, and no one's asking Maryland to become Florida. I know I'm not, but some common sense approach to dealing with business instead of the police state type mentality and looking just for enforcement as opposed to looking for ways. There's a way to can win. It's a way for them to win. There's a way for their people to win. Let's create those conditions where people want to invest, where private money wants to go into places like Maryland.
Yeah, I think like for people that are listening, and if you want to expand your business, and let's just say you're in Maryland and you want to open up another office, right? Maybe look at a Tennessee or a Texas. We have clients that do this all the time. It's kind of interesting that we have a pretty progressive client that happens to have an office in Texas, has an office in Tennessee, has an office in Florida. So I don't know why they did it that way. They are thriving, by the way. They've made really good business decisions. But it does help. I think you can, when you have a fluid state that's getting things done, they're not banning data centers. They're not requiring a 3-year study for a permit, right? It's gonna help not only with just the government piece of construction, but it's also going to help on the commercial side, because you can look at Maryland, Virginia, DC as a lot of government spend, but you got a lot of commercial on the backside because you've got all the people filling in the gaps for the Lockheeds and the Northrops, right? And I mean, I did work at Lockheed and Northrop on the maintenance side. I mean, they were great to do business with. So yeah, I think you can't argue with a state that gets it.
But at the same time, there are thousands of contractors who are thriving in Maryland. You know, they understand what it takes to do business in Maryland, and maybe ignorance is bliss. They don't know how much easier they would have it in one of these other states, but you know, there are a lot of successful companies. You know, we're still, despite the spigot being turned way back on federal spending, we still benefit from federal spending. But, you know, there's just a few more things you got to navigate to be successful in Maryland as opposed to some of these other places.
Aaron, what do you have?
No, nothing. I was going to say, sort of as we get back into it, right? Like navigating all these things, are these all things that ABC can help me with, right? That's kind of a question that I have, sort of as I'm learning all these things, right? Because, you know, I'm just curious about that, right? Like, what can we get out of associations in general? That was kind of some of the things I was.
And I'm not going to say necessarily this is every association, but you want to be a successful contractor. You got to be part lawyer. You've got to be part compliance expert, safety expert, accounting expert, economic expert, relational networking. With, I mean, what we do, like we're like that 6th man off the bench for companies. Most companies don't have experts on staff who know how to navigate Maryland's many regulations that oversee how construction is done and how HR is done. And we have, so what makes us different is that we have subject matter experts on staff, subject matter experts in prevailing wage, safety, minority and women regulations. And we also have the relationships with a lot of the large buyers of construction. We can be their entree and we can help them navigate. We, you know, the smartest company to come in, be a nudge, be a squeaky wheel. The thing that we get most excited about is when we get a chance to help somebody solve a problem, we connect somebody to a new opportunity, because you're a small business person and it's so easy to feel all alone and not know where to go. And there's almost no question you can ask us. If we don't know it, we will get the answer for you. And
I used to call that king of the dipshits. Actually, that's sorry.
I'm not even.
I mean, let's say what's that?
I'm not sure how that even connects. What am I missing?
I'll tell you, when you're sitting in your office at 7:00 at night and all your people are gone at 4:00, you feel awfully lonely. And you got a bunch of tradespeople telling you how to run your business. I remember sitting in a meeting one time And one of my electricians says, you think you own this company? We own the company. And I'm like,
Ow.
oh yeah. So I fired him on the spot. I literally fired him in the meeting. And I go, I was scared to death though, because like you're thinking, are they going to strike? Are they going to, I mean, we weren't union, we're non-union, but I mean, when you're running a trades group, guys, like they're going to tell you what they think. They're not shy. So it's sometimes hard. But it is a lonely, being in that business, it was a very lonely experience. Because when times get tough, they get tough.
It's amazing what we see happen. Even though you might have two mechanical contractors who are competitors, you form relationships. You're able to go, how did you manage this? Did you know this was happening? Have you heard about this new licensing law? I mean, there is a camaraderie that happens. It's your network. It's your community. It really is this amazing community. And probably the thing I'm most grateful for in this job is contractors, commercial contract tend to be the most generous people I've ever come across. And I'm not just talking about financially. I'm talking about wanting to be able to help somebody out, to be a resource, nobody was around to help me with that, but I want to help this guy navigate that, even though they might compete. At the end of the day, you're letting out the whole industry.
I think that a lot of what Aaron's asked, and I think Aaron, just to interject here, I was a member of ABC when I was in the electrical business, certainly BOMA, IRM, CAI. These associations serve a purpose of multiple purposes, right? I learned a lot about safety from ABC. I didn't even have like a safety program. I had to build that. And so ABC could assist with that. But you get out of these organizations what you put into it. If you go to a marketing event or cocktail parties and you're doing networking, I don't care if it's BOMA, ABC, or whatever it might be, you're going to make the right connections. But these are seed planners. These aren't, I'm out of business right now, I'm going to go switch to data centers and try to bid some work. I think to Mike's point, that's the opposite, right? Stay within your lane. I would almost say, like, if your business is struggling, what we do is so powerful because we get you the small work, and we're not going to fix it immediately, but we can get you the customer base that you're looking for. I have a friend who does data center construction on the HVAC side. He's got 3 customers, and you're not penetrating that relationship. If he does a good job on that work, he might have to match some pricing. Maybe his bid has to have a third look at it, but he's not getting dethroned because you came in and said, I'm going to bid this data center and I'm going to beat XYZ on price. Not going to happen. I'm sure, Mike, you can confirm that. These are relationships. Certainly price is important, but that relationship is really, these are 20, 30-year relationships with the largest GCs in America.
To touch on what you're saying, it's, you tell a small business person, hey, you should join this organization. And they're like, come to this and come to that and send this person this and send them, like, I want to see my kid at night and I want to have a life. And if all we're offering people is more stuff to put on their calendar, there was a time when that made sense. Now that's still happening. We still have thousands of networking opportunities, but we're also created a whole slate of benefits for people who never leave their office and never get up out of their chair. We're just now rolling out this assessment test, 72 questions. It looks at how you get work, how you do work, how you price the work, how you manage the work. And it comes back and it gives you this blueprint for what to focus on. And so without even going to anything, you're going to get something of immense value. I worked with one of the leading construction consultants in the country on this. And it doesn't cost a member anything, but they're going to get the kind of analysis that you would have to spend $10,000, $15,000 to have a consultant come in and do that kind of work. And I mean, you'll be surprised, or maybe not be surprised, at the number of companies who don't know when everything settles whether or not they made money on their project or not.
Right.
And
can we get a copy of that by chance?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'd have to talk about how that works, but yeah, it's going to be it's brand new. We're just now rolling it out. I've had companies, small, mid-size, and I wasn't going after big companies, but I've had really, really big companies come back and go, "This is of tremendous value to us."
Well, I think having that open mind to, you guys do a great job of filling a lot of gaps. And I know for me, when I became an ABC member, you know, I shouldn't say this on air, but I wasn't even filing permits. Like, I was getting calls from the city inspectors, like saying, "Hey, McLaughlin, I saw a bunch of McLaughlin electric trucks in Baltimore. I haven't seen a permit come across my desk." And I said, "Well, I'm just changing light bulbs." He goes, "Well, you technically need a permit."
You had no idea how good you had it back then.
Let me tell you something. The best one ever was, we did a small little, it was literally like a data center. And I shouldn't say this on air, but it was in a bank's building in downtown Baltimore. It happened to be in the Baltimore City permit office. It was on Calvert Street.
Oh, in the permitting office.
It was in the permitting building. And when the inspectors went to lunch that day, there's 6 McLaughlin electric trucks in the alley running pipe. I get a call and they go, "McLaughlin, this is, if you don't have a permit, I'm shutting you down." So I didn't even, I wasn't even following the rules, but quite frankly, we were a service company. So we felt like we didn't have to file permits to change light switches, but it's gotten really complicated. I'm sure getting a permit is very challenging too.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that is not improved, and that's not doing anything to enhance the reputation of this region.
But if you're not willing to, and I appreciate the kid thing, right? I mean, I've got a son, but I'm sorry, if you're running a construction business or any business and you're not out networking at night, or you have someone doing it for you, hire a marketing person to get to these events, right? You've got to do that. That's sort of
yeah, you do. But let's say you go to one event, you're not someone who is inclined, who enjoys networking with a bunch of people they don't know. You don't know to come to one of us, and we kind of hold your hand, introduce you to other people. Our biggest competition aren't other associations. Our biggest competition is soccer practice.
Sure.
And having a life. It's different than it was when you.
No, I understand. But again, know your strengths. I mean, I've met a lot of people that are GCs, and I met someone who's very successful landowner in Maryland who happens to be general contractor or landowner, and he shouldn't be going to networking events. He's an analytical guy who is incredibly bright, doesn't listen very well. So your strengths. He sends other people to go do the networking. And so if you can't skip the step in the networking piece, in my opinion, whether it's ABC or BOMA or whatever you need, you're going to get, if you just write a check to ABC or BOMA or IRM, you're not getting anything. You got to get involved. You got to be engaged, and they'll help you. I mean, look, honestly, ABC helped me a lot because I was missing a lot of the things, and I put my people in apprenticeship training, and again, it gave me an avenue to make sure my people had a path that they felt wasn't like I'm just learning from Billy on the truck today.
Yeah. And one thing I would say there, Ray, is like we're kind of getting close to time on this whole thing. So it's been a great conversation, but I would kind of like what you just said there of like whether you're joining this or this, finding time, finding your path, right? Mike, one kind of maybe closing question that I just have for you is, if there's contractors, AltaVista customers, et cetera, listening today, right? And they're not involved in any trade group, right? They're not in ABC or BOMA. They're just in nothing. What's a good first step for you? And then what would you hope for them to think they could accomplish by like 6 or 12 months of membership?
So it really depends if you're a trade contractor or general contractor.
Let's take a trade contractor.
The value propositions. Well, if you're a trade contractor, and let's make it really simple, you're an MVP contractor. So you need training, you need certification, your people need continuing education. You need to understand, within 6 to 12 months, you're like, okay, I have a better handle on what is required from me to operate in the state of Maryland, because it gets more and more convoluted every year. I have grown my network. I'm connected to more general contractors. I'm building relationships with people that do what I do. And I'm starting to have a network of people that I can bounce stuff off of and stay on, it allows you to keep your ear to the ground and know what's going on out there. Be where conversations are happening. I'm getting training, I'm getting blueprint training, I'm getting safety training. I'm hearing about, the new Family Medical Leave Act in Maryland that's different than the one in Montgomery County, that's different than the one in DC, that's different. Any one of these things, if I do it wrong, could get me fined or put me under. So you'll be smarter, you'll be better connected. I think you will have better opportunity. And, these days, if you're not invested in your people, you're not going to hold on to the good people. You're going to hold on to the people nobody else wants.
Well, I think that is the key we haven't talked about. If you can't hold on to your people, you're done. You're done. You're done in the trades, because you get a great electrician who not only can communicate with your client and they can do the work, and you don't have to worry about them doing it improperly, and they're doing it safely, and they're following OSHA and MOSHA rules. They're invaluable, and they should make 6 figures. So, and you can charge for that. That's the other thing about the trades. You can charge for that high qualified electrician or plumber or HVAC tech.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody got anything else kind of in closing there?
Yeah, I do actually. What are like the 3 biggest mistakes, Mike, that you see trade contractors make that, you wish you could have helped them with? What are some of the?
I feel like I think I mentioned them already. Taking jobs that they are not ready to take, not investing in their people, trying to cut corners, not taking care of their people. Let's say that's another category. So
Yep.
Taking jobs they shouldn't take, not really taking care of or investing in their people, and then not taking the time to build relationships, be known and seen as a credible business owner, a trade partner people want to do business with.
Good. Those are good. That's great. Thank you. I mean, for me, it's very similar. I think that those are all critically important, but I think you've got to play the long game. Good businesses aren't built in a week or a month or a year. You're playing the long game with your people, your customers. It's about let's build a business that can deliver a service or a product that is exceptional to the competition. Let's go accumulate customers, and we're going to grow exponentially over, say, 5-10 years. It's not let's switch here, let's build a quick service department. It's a long game.
I mean, I just tack on to what you said, even though I think you had the closing remarks.
That's okay. You can go.
That I mean, every trade contractor wants to get away from being a price, right? You want to get away from the hard bids. You want to get away from, you're going to be evaluated solely in terms of price. You want your clients to understand how you do business. And even if you're a little bit more expensive, the productivity, the scheduling, execution, that your client's going to save money in the long run. So you want people who believe in that are willing to invest in that.
Right. And I think it is owning the relationship. I didn't do a lot of construction work. I did very little construction work, but I did 6-figure jobs at McLaughlin. I mean, I did the digital display boards at Raven stadiums. So, I mean, we did large projects. We didn't even bid that work because we owned the relationship and we could get the job done on time, guaranteed. And we got it. And so if you don't want to be just a number, you've got to own the relationship, and you're going to have to play ball. Like if you put a bid out for 150 grand and the PM's like, hey, look, we got to sharpen our pencils here a little bit, do a little pre-qual, say, where do I need to be to get this done? Know where you are on GP, know whether you could take it or not, but you got to own the relationship. And going in and blind bidding jobs is one way to run yourself into bankruptcy. That's it. If you just want to go bid work, you're losing. And I don't care if it's construction, service, and if you can't differentiate yourself, I don't care if it's construction or service, you're done. You've got to be able to differentiate yourself.
Very well said. I think I'm going to wrap it up here unless anybody else has anything that they feel like they have to share right now.
No, thanks for joining us, Mike.
You all were very patient with my style of run-on sentences. So
Mike,
we'll clean it up a little. No, I'm just kidding. You did great.
They're like, I can't even find a place where he takes a breath.
You're going to watch this podcast and you're going to talk for like 8 seconds. No, I'm totally kidding.
Yeah. No, Mike, seriously, we appreciate you coming on, giving interesting perspectives, kind of sharing from your expertise. Everybody, listeners, thank you very much for listening. That's another episode of the AltaVista Angle. If you found this valuable, please download the episode, subscribe, like, leave a review, drop a comment, or share it with someone that can benefit. We appreciate the support, and we'll see you next time on the AltaVista Angle.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.